Morning, everybody, or afternoon, depending on where you're at. Drew, you still driving that freaking thing around? Do you dump that car in a ditch anywhere?
Oh my God! I put it on top of our pallet racks. It's a 20,000-pound boom crane. Come on! So I had the riggers. I had to get some riggers out here to move the mills, and they've been trying for like 2 weeks. They couldn't get any crane operators, and I can operate the big cranes, the boom cranes, and all that. So I have a license for that. So they rented one for me for 24 hours to load it for all the machines up on the 18-wheeler.
Yeah,
like having all kinds of fun. I don't know if I can see what's here. Right?
That's awesome.
It's so much fun. My kids. I've been letting my kids. I teach my kids how to do it. So, but, yeah.
Right on.
I want to compete with Casey. Casey has a cool setup for his mobile Maslow, so I figured, use a boom crane for my mobile Maslow. That way we can do it 100 feet in the air if we need.
Yeah. The world's tallest make. That's awesome. Casey, how you doing?
Another fine day in Happyville.
Yeah, all right. Glad to see you got set up there. Mitch, is it Mitch or Mitchell?
Yes.
Yes, right on. How's it going?
So I'm actually not very happy. I still can't get Makerverse to run. I had this issue last week. I talked to you guys. I got in touch with Mike. Mike Zoomed with me later that day, actually, and we went through the whole process of setting up, troubleshooting, and we got it down to what we thought maybe was a bad Arduino board. We got it ordered, it arrived, plugged it in this way, another one plugged in, and the issue is still that I can't get Makerverse to find a new machine. It says that COM port is busy.
That it sounds like. Sorry, it's beeping. Y'all hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if you're not seeing the serial, the COM port, and you've got the drivers installed, are you using a Windows or Mac OS?
Mitch, you there?
You hear me okay?
Mitch, did you hear the question? Trying to decide if you're using Windows or Mac. I think he was on an iPhone too, and I think that dropped. So.
Okay. Well, we'll wait. Yeah, Casey's probably heard the same thing over and over again, but that's as my PC tech side. That's just getting the COM port issues are pretty common.
Yeah, let's see if we can solve this thing.
We just need to look and see, and manager see if it's showing up, and make sure it's the right one showing up, or if it's just showing up as unknown device, then make sure the proper drivers are installed, which COM port. And if worse comes to worse, it's conflicting, which it shouldn't conflict, but manually assign it a different, like a COM 5 or something instead of a COM 3 or whatever, maybe assigning it.
Can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm. Can hear you now, yeah.
Okay, so I've actually tried this setup on 3 different computers now, doing a fresh install of Makerverse and Arduino. So I'm reasonably sure I have all the updated software.
Oh, dang. Dropped again. Well. While he's loading back up, Mike, do you have any insight?
I'm here.
Okay. All right, Mitch, keep going.
Yeah, I just hopped in right the last couple minutes, like the last few seconds. What is that? What's going on?
Mitch is giving us a rundown on the issues he's having getting connected.
I believe I spoke to him last week. We spoke to send him out a new board. And
they still have the same issues.
The new board is giving me the same issues.
The same issues. So you can't even see no kind of port or nothing.
In Makerverse, yes.
Are you using the cable that comes with the board? Because sometimes what you run into too is some of those
Yes.
mini USB and the micro USBs can be just power only, not data.
Yeah. So I grabbed a different micro USB cord just to make sure maybe it wasn't the cord. Now, the cord I grabbed was for my phone, so maybe it wasn't a data micro USB that I grabbed either. But
Yeah, that could be a possibility.
So
a lot of the micro
the-
USBs you get to save money, what they do is they just make them. There's only 2 wires in them for 5-volt, and that's it.
okay, I can. Okay, so I'll try a different micro USB. But so I have a very specific question. When you guys boot your computers and are ready to use Makerverse, you have to load the sketch from Arduino every time? No.
No.
Okay. So I do that, and then I do that the first time, but then I should just be able to open Makerverse and connect to a new machine, which this would be for me. So I never get that. When you guys here, hold on, let me back up.
Yeah.
When you boot up your computer, are you guys hearing the whine from the motors as soon as you boot up your computer?
As soon as we connect
Or
to
does that
the
only
new board,
happen after you
your internet's real bad, Mitch. Is there somewhere you can get that's got a stronger
say
connection?
again?
Is there somewhere you can get that's got stronger connection? You're cutting in and out a lot. True.
I'm on a job site right now.
Oh,
Maybe
gotcha.
that's what I got.
Yeah, so the whine should begin the moment that you connect to your USB cable, assuming that your do board is connected to power, right? Everything's connected. The moment you plug in that USB, you should start hearing a whine, even if Makerverse isn't open yet. Oh.
Now here's a caveat to that is compared my old system compared to the new 2021, the level of the noise is way different. The new 2021 is a lot quieter. I mean, I don't have the greatest hearing in the world, but I thought mine wasn't running and I hit the Y axis movement and it moved. I can barely, I don't hear that whine like I used to.
It's a lot quieter, isn't it?
It's a lot quieter. So, I mean, I know if you look at the Facebook page, a lot of people talk about the high pitched whine and how loud it is, and you can tell your unit's running. I'm not sure we can rely on that whine being an indicator whether or not the unit is connected or not connected anymore. Because like I said, when I did the laser here a little bit ago, I couldn't hear the whine. I thought there was something wrong. So I went ahead and tried moving and it moved.
I think that's an update to the motors.
Yeah, something. Maybe instead of doing 1/16, they're doing one. Well, no, I think MakerMade was doing 1/32 steps.
I
Maybe
know that the factory was trying to convince us to move to a new motor. What was it? There was a driver or something in the motor that they wanted us to swap out. And once we did, it quieted things down a lot.
All right, guys.
You're still having issues with Makerverse seeing the mouse out, correct?
Yeah, Mitch, it sounds like you got to run. Is that right?
Yeah. So, is there any way, Mike? Are you online tonight?
Yeah, I'm on. I can. We can link up. I could go ahead and give you a call. I have your contact info.
If you're seeing it in the Arduino, then and you're uploading Arduino sketches, then your cable's good, everything's good. Your sketches may not be uploading properly, and that's why when you go to Makerverse, it's not seeing it because it's not running the firmware on the Arduino, so it's not seeing the mouse out because your sketches aren't loaded properly. But if you're able to get to the Arduino and upload sketches, you're good.
I've tried it on 3 different rigs, 3 different laptops.
So Mitch, definitely get with Mike. The only other thing I can think of is there are instances where depending on what other applications you're running, they could interfere. Like we can't run Lightburn, which is what's needed for obviously laser creation at the same time that we run Makerverse. It conflicts with the ports for some reason. Again, I'm not an expert on this, but I always have to shut down Lightburn before I can open up Makerverse and get it to work properly. So that's another consideration. Not sure what applications you may be running that could cause that, but just thought.
Okay,
But,
so Mike, if you would check your emails again, I sent you an email. I haven't had a response from you yet. Also, I sent an email response to MakerMade. It was the email that they sent me that gave me the tracking number for their new Arduino. And then I haven't heard a response back from anybody.
Gotcha.
So if you would just please check your emails, because I'm
Yeah, I got it. I got it right here.
okay, thanks, Mike.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that sounds like it may be the issue too. Is that if you got because you will get a conflict if you connect it to it. Makerverse will have issues if you have Lightburn or Arduino open and connected to the Arduino's IDE open. When you have it connected to Arduino, anything that's accessing the Arduino will keep that COM port busy. And so you make sure nothing else is using the Arduino. You can have them open at the same time. You just need to make sure they're disconnected.
Yep. I tried it on 3 different rigs. I have the same problem on 3 different rigs. So I'm reasonably sure it's not a conflict of applications. But I have to go. All right. Mike, if you would shoot me an email so I can get a hold of you later. Okay.
Yes, sir. I sure will.
Sorry about that, Mitch. We'll get it solved. We'll figure it out.
Thanks. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
All right, y'all. Well, so Casey, can you give us an up close look? Give us a rundown on that the laser module now that you got it all set up. How's it working for you?
It's working pretty good. I don't know if you can see behind me.
Nice.
See the way I got it all set up? Still
Yeah.
have the cables. I'm thinking about getting some of that wrap, the plastic wrap that goes around, cable keepers. Getting some of that put on there, but I want to keep it, I want to make sure that I have it in a fashion to where it's a quick change out, pretty much per se.
Yeah.
Other than that, I think it's pretty good. It's definitely working well. I got
Cool.
some good burns in it. Here's my logo, of course. Got that burned in there, but I want to, this weekend, I'm going to try to do a couple of, I got some really neat designs, Texas designs, of course, for cornhole boards.
Nice. I can't wait to see how you design those out. I've been playing around with different ideas on it, and we've got some old versions of the cornhole boards, one for every state, right? But I really want to see what you do with the laser unit there.
Yeah, the big thing in Texas is always the come take it flag and don't tread on me flag. So I actually made a set of those and I hand painted them. And they were really gorgeous. And then I put an epoxy, a clear epoxy over the top of them. And I made sure that the hole size, everything was regulation. And about a year ago, actually about 6 months ago, I was on a camping trip and we folded them up and slid them underneath our coach. And the next day, well, a couple days later, we decided we wanted to play cornhole again. Went over there and went to pull them out from underneath the coach. They were gone. Somebody wanted them more than we did, evidently. I've never had that before. I mean, hell, I had a $700 grill sitting out there. Nice, aluminum foldable table. They didn't take anything, just the cornhole boards.
That's wild.
Yeah. They could have taken all of that. And the tables, those, nice aluminum tables that fold up into a solid bag and stuff. Those things they're not cheap. They're about $150 a pop. They left all that crap. They just wanted the cornhole boards. So since then, my son and my wife have been riding my butt to get another set of cornhole boards because they love playing cornhole when we're camping.
Well, that would be all. Yeah, you should. I'm sure if you were to put those on the marketplace too, you would get a ton of people interested in.
Yeah, I think. So I'm trying to figure out how to cut with the laser, then swap out with the router. Mm-hmm. And use the same home position and then just cut the circle in it so I don't have to move my work piece at all. So I'm trying to work that out, and I was thinking about just building a template for an SVG file that they could upload into something, they could upload into Lightburn, then put whatever design logo they wanted on it, export that as an SVG into easel, then go ahead and it already has the 6-inch hole cut. And if you explode that, I was playing with it last night, if you explode the whole thing in easel, then you can take that 6-inch hole and you can just adjust the depth and everything on that. So now you have one from Lightburn and one from easel with everything in the exact same place. You just delete everything else in easel, and you would just have one file you would load in Lightburn, then load to Makerverse, it'd burn. Once that's done, swap out your router, load your file from easel, and it should cut that hole exactly where it is. So just kind of a template, right?
Yeah,
People
that's
used to swap back and forth.
right. That's exactly the use case that we're wanting. So I've been doing that now for like these charcuterie boards, and we made TJ, who is our one of our co-owners now, who is our sourcing guru out of China. He's been in town, and he's got his daughter here with him, and we made a laser kitty yesterday, doing a laser etched cat and then cutting it, milling it out afterwards. So 1.1.4 is definitely better suited for that swapping in and out. So yeah, the other thing that because I've been thinking about that too, Casey, because what I'm seeing is it seems like there's even a chance for slight variance between easel and Lightburn when I'm trying to blend projects like that. So one thing I was thinking with the cornhole board is do your design, right, that you're going to do with the laser, and then just have it burn a single dot in the center of where that hole would be. And then it doesn't matter about the 6-inch hole. It's just a 6-inch hole. And then you set your work offset right on that dot. And then it's going to mill a 6-inch hole there. And then you go over and do the other one, 6-inch hole over here. Right. Yeah. So you just get it aligned there. So that's another way to do it that doesn't require flawless overlay of one project file into the other. Right.
Yep.
So just different ways of doing it. But yeah, ideally, like that, like what you're saying, and just drop the same work offset one after the other.
Yep,
for
exactly.
sure.
Exactly.
I just got some sample units in for our spindle we're hoping to launch in the next couple months. So we're currently undergoing testing protocol like we did in the laser. We're working really with this unit to make sure we absolutely just crush bit deflection. So this, unlike the router where you're clamped like that, right? Or up here, like this thing is going to be absolutely held fast like that. So we're working with these guys. It's just a little Jinmitsu motor, but really excited. Just got these in. So going to be playing with those today.
Is it 110 110 or is it a variable 12 volt VDC?
At 24 volt. But obviously when it goes to the dew, it drops to 12, right? So, but it's a 20,000 RPM spindle that, you know, we don't need anything close to that. So 12,000 even is going to be or 10,000 be way overkill. So, but in the current version of Makerverse, we will also have spindle control live while you're milling. So you can be like, oh, I'm scorching my bit. Let's drop that down a little bit. So
yeah, I see that Makerverse has that capability. We're just not letting it spindle.
Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, hey, I'm glad I have you two guys on here, Mike as well. So this gives us an opportunity to talk about some things I really wanted to get to today, which is, so I'm taking over this weekly call, right? But I want to make it into a lot more than it is, because, you know, we started out with just, hey, new people come in. If you've got interest in the M2 or anything that we're selling, come find out from others. But, you know, I think that's got some value and people will continue checking in on that, but I want to make it a lot more than that. So Casey, I texted you this morning and asked if you wanted to, you know, do a show and tell on your dust collector unit for people. And, you know, Drew, I'd love for you to give folks a rundown on like, how do you incorporate the M2 into your business? Like, get more community engagement. And then, you know, what are the areas that we could see this going for the community that's like, here's a tips and tricks section that's all about like how you got your business started. Like Drew talks about his business, and then Scotty B comes in next week and talks about how he got his business started. Like, what are the ways that would be most useful or most interesting, I think? Like, from a show and tell standpoint or information provided? Many thoughts.
Yeah, those going to be pre-recorded, or just going to do live events?
I mean, that's a good point. Like, I've thought about both. Like, Scotty B could take us through in a pre-recording, and we just press play here. Ideally, it would be live, but
well, we can record the live ones, and then if they're not that great, you can always edit them.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is what we're going to do. That's smart. That's a smart way to do it too. Because if you look at how Glowforge is marketing all their stuff, all their marketing is make all this money from home. How to make all this money from home? You know, make all this money with your laser. And sorry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, just with your businesses, if you're going to be doing things like Scotty B and those guys, their schedule isn't always solid, right? I mean, sometimes he has customers that call him out, and it'd be a shame to have a live thing scheduled and then he gets called out and he can't make it. So you might want to focus on doing pre-recorded sessions, and then you could just launch them on a specific date. Hey, you know, instead of this is going to be a live Facebook thing or whatever it is, instead say, hey, you know, to hear how Scotty B got started or whatever, you know, have it pre-recorded and say it's going to be available on this date, kind of give it a primer, you know, to the rest of the people on Facebook. But that way you don't have to worry about scheduling conflicts, right? You don't have to worry about anything like that messing up, especially with Scotty B. He has a lot of followers. So, I mean, if people get in there and they want to see his, you know, how he does his light kits, I asked him to do a video on, you know, assembling lights in like a cornhole board. He sells those LED kits, and I don't think he was too interested in that. But I asked him to, you know, I'd really like to see how he cuts the LED, how he sizes it, how he does all the wiring. And I said, man, that'd be a great YouTube video for people that want to do that for their home-based businesses, doing little home decor that has little LED lights in it and stuff.
Yeah. Do you think it was because he didn't have the time? He didn't think it was going to be, do you think it was going to be because he didn't want to give up secrets?
Secrets. It's usually, I'm not gonna lie, a lot of the times it's secrets. People do not want to tell people how they're doing stuff. Yeah, because that's just the way some people are. It eats in their money, you know what I mean, in their market, you know.
I know Alexis was like that.
But think about Scotty B. He sells all of that. He sells all that equipment, all that material to build those LED systems. So, I mean, he wants you to know how to cut it, how to assemble it, and everything else. So I don't think it was a secret component. I think it was time component for him. He just didn't have time. He didn't, you know, that kind of stuff.
Gotcha. Okay. I mean, that's fair. And I think but I think you're right. I think there's definitely those folks out there. We've seen it in the community comments, right? That like,
oh yeah,
don't give away all the secrets now, like, which is interesting too, because like there's 340 million people in this country right now. I don't think there's a huge chance for us to be stepping on toes for one-off onesie-twosie.
No. And if you are, it's actually a good thing. That means that you're actually in a really good spot.
You're reaching. Yeah, right?
Yep. So I don't mind stepping on toes because it means that you're doing something right. You're getting yeah, I do think though, I think one thing I'm telling you, I'm willing to bet you on that. If you do a 3x3 option, the exact same size as the, because that way they're not have to compare and they think, oh, well, because they don't realize they could do it 3x3. If you do it 2x4, they might think, wow, but I want to do it the exact same size. So the only thing they're comparing is price and size. I think you don't have to do anything, just market it because it's already set up for that. They change some documentation how to build that size, but
Right. Yeah. We've been talking about that since our last conversation, Drew. Just
because I'm sorry.
Yeah, just ways to implement that mini frame more quickly.
Yeah, and then also too, because I'm telling you, that's the biggest thing I've heard is people just worrying about space and portability. One guy was wanting portability. If you did a 3x3, you could actually make it pretty portable. But you can throw it in the back of a van, stuff like that. What do you call it? And then what you were saying earlier is right on. I think with the whole making money side of it, a lot of people want to get the stuff to try to make some extra money. And so I actually just bought mine for fun. My wife, how I ended up with my first MakerMade was my wife was like, "What do you want for Father's Day?" I was like, "I want a Maslow so bad."
And so that's what my first one was my Father's Day gift to play
awesome.
around with. So it wasn't for making money or anything like that. It was just for fun. So
Father's Day is like our biggest event of the year, just about. It's like Christmas and Father's Day, like those are the two. It's crazy. Yeah, that's really cool. So I'm again, honestly, like I think there's ways that we can do we can definitely do a better job of demonstrating the value of this tool, but more so I'm interested in ways that we can just elevate the awareness that people who are browsing our tools have of the businesses that are using them, just for the purpose of like getting that business's name out there, right? Creating backlinks from our own website to their website elevates their search engine rank, right? Like there's just ways that we should be trying to give back to the businesses who are using these tools in every way we can. We've got a lot of capabilities to leverage on our end.
I think one thing you can do too is I think with machines like this, people want to play with them. So like Casey was talking about doing workshop, or like y'all were talking about last time doing workshops, and Casey's in a big market. You have some other people, big market, getting some of those little spots. Like, and I said, I'll work with y'all. I've got that retail space sitting empty, and I want to do something with it. By doing that, getting people out there, it helps me rent some of those offices and stuff like that. So it gives y'all a test place to showcase, like people come in and do some workshops, stuff like that.
Yep.
If y'all help write the workshops, stuff like that, because that's stuff I just definitely don't have time to do right now. But y'all help put together an outline for some workshop stuff like that, and I'll be glad to do some. And also, if people want to come by and see them, it works good, so people can see. Because a lot of this stuff we do fabrication for is actually for makers, and so they don't have some other machine stuff like that, so they need some fabrication. So it's a win-win either way. And so if they want to come by and just see a unit, see how it feels, see how it looks, and stuff like that, for sure. I'm cleaning up the warehouses. So I've been moving stuff around today. I've been going for the last 18 hours trying to get as much out of that thing as I can, getting all the heavy equipment moved around so it's cleaned up.
Yeah.
So have a nice showcase area.
So Patrick, can you just have, reach out to some of those people that have businesses and things like that, and ask them to do a quick video snippet, right? Maybe 1 minute, 60 seconds, maybe 2 tops, and ask them to just do a quick video snippet of what the MakerMade does for them, how they got, why they purchased the M1 or the M2, talk about some of the upgrades, some of the things they've done, and how it's a benefit to the business. And then just have, like on your home page, on the MakerMade home page, have those, 4, 5, or 6 videos there, to where when people just go MakerMade.com, you pull it up and you've got your splash page there, but right under that is, hey, take a look at how, the M2 or the laser, or I don't know what you call your 3D printer, but look at how
300
is, and this is the benefit, and this is what they got from it, right? So that's kind of the first whack they get in the head is, hey, look what this has done for others.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's one thing. So one of the pushes I'm making for our team right now is to get, how like websites will be like, these are the companies, the Fortune 500s that use our products. Like, yes, that, but not Fortune 500s. To me is like, that's almost like people look at that and go, well, I can't afford whatever they're selling, right? So I'd rather it be small businesses that are using these tools to really, again, elevate that and be like, all these businesses, but again, as a backlink so that you can click on those, and maybe the person just goes, well, you know what? I just want to sign from Scotty B. That's actually really all I wanted.
I think you're the smart way too, because people see like big corporations, stuff like that, they're gonna be like, yeah, they're gonna think it's like out of their price range, like you're saying.
Yeah.
If they see small businesses, I think one area that you have. So one thing we've done a lot of, and that we've is for theater. So we do a lot of pitch competitions, stuff like that, and so we use the purple foam board that you buy, the insulation foam sheets, the 4x8 sheets that you buy at Home Depot, and we've done a bunch of like backdrops for theaters. You know how they do the theater sets.
Yeah.
And so we've done those. I think if you market some of that, so I can take some pictures of the ones we have that we did, like in Atlanta City for one of the tech events and all that, and so in case they don't have to do wood. But when we took every time we take them out to the year, all the set people are like, oh my God, we need to get one of those. So they're like, how'd you do that? And I told them, like, yeah, that's a perfect market. And you show it not just wood, show them you can do it out of foam, because if you do it out of foam, it's super cheap and easy, and then it's lightweight to move around. And so, yeah.
We just lost Josh Denny, but yes. So Drew, absolutely. So that's one target market we've been looking at. Would love for you to send some pictures of that, like even adjacent to the M2 or something. Like that's like we think there's a huge opportunity there for sure.
Yeah, I'll try some, because we also have some we did for trade shows, where we did a trade show one for. It was actually it was funny. It was a what do you call it? One of the pot shows or something. When you know how all the CBD and all that crap's big, it has to do a giant marijuana leaf, which is kind of funny because I'm not really into those things. But so we did like this huge one. So I know it was actually for I forget, like the Current or something like that. I forget which one, but they did a trade show. We did like a 12-foot one, and we did all that foam again too, and just duct taped some 2x4s. So yeah, some different things. I have some pictures of those things to show you, and I think that is a huge market, because they think a lot of them are like, they know about shop bots, they know how to use tools, they have shops. A lot of these theaters and a lot of these places have full shops. They just don't think they don't have the budget for a shop bot and other things, and they don't realize there's MakerMades out there. Yeah. And they especially don't realize you could use foam on these things. They think, oh, you have to use wood or whatever else. So when you show them you can use that foam and just paint it, they get super excited.
That's a really, really good point. Yeah. And
so the trade shows is another one too. Trade show people.
Right on. What's up, Dustin?
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. Pretty good. So one thing I was going to ask you all about today, or get your help on, is starting to drop conversations into the forums rather than just into the owners group. So Casey, I sent you a note about that earlier. So one thing, Casey, that you did this week, you created those laser videos, or this week and last week. And one of them, you're in assembly instruction video, I think, especially. We were just like, well, there's no need for us to make a video now on this or a new video. We're like, we're just going to use this. This is great. So what we're creating on the website are, like, obviously the forum is a key location, and that would be where community and we all engage, and just ensures that the questions that are asked over and over and over and over again in the community are just like set in stone in the forum. Somebody can go search and it's right there, right? So we want to start moving conversations that way, and then change the nature of the community on Facebook, maybe to more like, I'm not sure what, but maybe business driven or something like that, like owners who truly make things for their business and collaborating. I'm not sure yet, but start moving more of the conversation over to the forums. And in so doing, what I want to do, Casey, is like when you get if you get those videos loaded up there, we have what we're calling resource articles going forward, where that is essentially what we consider to be the gold standard of how anything is done, from calibration to a laser to frame assembly, right? And it could be from the community or it could be from us. And what we want to do is, if you put that on the forums, we would then immediately pin that as a resource article, that your video would be the gold standard of laser unboxing videos. Essentially, that's where that's kind of originating from, for context there. But I also would love to get your all's feedback on just how the forums work. Are they successful? Do they do the deed, or are there features that we need to bake in custom that are not yet available in the forums? So I'm trying to get that running too.
I'll be honest with you, I've been so bad about social media and so bad about the forum stuff lately. Like, I hadn't even my personal social media. Like, I try to do a post every now and then, but I've gotten so bad about keeping up on it just because I've just been overloaded. But what do you call it? I do, one thing I'll tell you is we've had a lot of people coming in here over the last year saying, hey, they're not on Facebook or things like that. So I think having your forums and also make it a lot easier for the FAQs and all that. Then so I think that's a good move by far.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so too. That's the goal anyway. We'll see how it works out, but we got to get more conversations going over there. So I'll be probably anything I post to the owners group will likely be a link to the forums going forward to try and just generate some adoption there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's about it. Well, I was going to see if there are others joining. I was going to take us through a walkthrough of 1.1.4, but with the group that we have here, I'll just ask, are you all using the 1.1.4 right now, or are you still using any others? I know, Casey, you tried it out. We've got some new releases that have come out since. I'm not sure if you got the latest and greatest as of like a few days ago.
Yeah, I just shot that video like 2 days ago. Is it already old?
No, I don't. I think if you did, then you're fine. I know. So there have been some tweaks and additions made to it, but if you've got that beta button checked, you should be getting the latest version each time. But yeah, we're just trying to. Any other thoughts or feedback on it? I found it to be really useful, a lot better than it has been. We spent a lot of time just combing through the ins and outs of how that tool had worked before, and just how janky it kind of was in terms of like intuitive use case. So are you finding it more successful then?
Yeah, I was talking to Chris back and forth messaging there. He's already going down the path of putting in a Z-axis home button separate from set the work home button.
Yeah.
Because if you're going back and forth between the router, with the router, that's okay. You can set your Z-axis and then set home and set everything. It's not that way with the laser. The laser has to be focused first. So you can set your work home at a specific location, but then you need to set Z-axis home, work home separately because that's a different dimension, right? Yeah. So he's already in process of putting that button in. And there's just a couple of other things that I haven't found any bugs, which is a good thing, but I'm one of those individuals that I do like to watch my G code as it processes, and that was taken out of that drop down. I'm not sure why we removed the ability to watch your G code process, because sometimes if I pause something, I like to know exactly what line I'm in my G code in case something happens. I can come back and wipe all of that out and reload the G code and start right where I was. So that's a big thing for, I think, a lot of other makers out there. They like to know where they're at. If they pause overnight, they know what line code I'm at, and then they can go in and redo it if something goes, wacky overnight. And then the other thing was a lot of people have been asking for a button that you set a process, to run, and they want an all stop on moves.
Yeah.
Problem is that's not the way G code works, and people don't get that. But I still have people texting me and asking me, hey, is that going to come back in? I'm like, I don't know. Ask MakerMade. I don't know.
It's an all stop button.
Well, so whenever they are manually moving, when they're manually moving their sled around, like to get to an access or something, and accidentally, I don't know. I've had that brain fart a couple of times. It's set in inches and I move it to 50 and I hit it and I forget that I'm in inches and not in millimeters, and the thing just starts running clear over here off the board.
Right.
Well, I want to be able to stop that. But G code, once you set a line and it's processing in the Arduino, that's it. It's running. So
the pause button fixes that, right? So it's not to say that that's a good use, right? The way to do it. I'm just saying, like, if you press the pause button after you've entered a command, it will stop it, right?
No, because it streams it. It won't stop it if it's already streamed, because what it does is it streams some. So if it's depending where there's not data stream, it may be 20 commands after it by the time it pauses it. If you hit that pause button, it may have already streamed a bunch of commands.
So pause, Makerverse only pauses when it's completed that one line command in the G code. So it doesn't interrupt the current command that's running right now. So it's not like an e-stop. You know what I mean? And I think that's what people are asking for. So
it's so interesting too, because that's always been my understanding of it as well. But my experience of it is that if I'm in the middle of jogging at 500 millimeters to the right and I press pause, it will stop.
Huh. I don't know. Yeah. I guess I've never tried that.
Your computer just sucks, so it's taking too long to stream it.
Yeah.
You're using USB 1, or you're set to like a really slow baud rate. I'm just kidding. I don't know. But you know, one thing you could do is offer, and there's an e-stop. So I found those great ones on Amazon that don't require like anything, and I just have it plugged to the power supply of the Shield, and that way it doesn't mess up with the Arduino and the power and to the router. And they're great. They're big, like table saw e-stop. They're like $20. It's something y'all should offer as an accessory, because then they don't have to figure out how to wire it, stuff like that. It's basically, I'll send you a link to the one I use, ours. And it's just whenever I start to stretch a spring or a screw, I'm like, oh crap, I just whack that thing real quick.
Yeah.
And it doesn't screw everything up. That can hit pause still too, but if I really need to stop the router, I need to stop stop it from the motors from moving, it will stop that.
Well,
without
all you need to do is have an instructional video on where to wire it to for me, because I've already got an e-stop on my laser. I'd like to have a single e-stop for everything. Yeah. So if I knew where to wire that on the motor shield, I would just wire it into the e-stop I have now. That way,
so
router or the laser, it's the same e-stop, right?
Yeah. So I did basically, I just put so what it has the power comes into it, like it has just a regular plug, a 3-prong plug going into it, and one side, and the other side it has like extension cord ends, and you just I plug the power supply, the 12-volt power supply for the Arduino Shield, and then the router into the that other side, the output side, and I'll send you a picture and get that to you. It's cool.
So
if it's and it feels good. There's some cheap ones, but this one's like a really hardcore, like nice table saw one, and it was like $20.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So Casey, you were saying the console wasn't showing for you, or wasn't delivering the commands, or showing you the commands as they were? Because I've got the console here, and I was just not sure. I know we've sort of tried to de-emphasize the console because for a lot of people it's scary and they don't know what they're up to or what it's doing.
No, I don't. Like I said, I haven't found any bugs in it. It's working fine for me.
But you were saying that the console wasn't visible for something. You were saying that you couldn't watch your streaming code.
The G code. So if you go up there, see where it says 3D view up at the top, right above the set home. If you don't click the little drop down next to it. There you go. You used to have a click in there, and your G code would come up in place of the your file being cut right there in the center.
Oh.
And it just shows every line of G code, and as it goes, it highlights the line, then the line disappears, or the line grays out. So you know exactly what line of G code, and then you can click that button right there and go back to your orthographic view if you wanted later.
Gotcha. I've never used that before.
Yeah, I use the shit out of it. Every project, I use the shit out of it. Yeah.
That's funny. That's actually what I use a lot too, especially when we were working with the laser. When Chris and I were working on the laser, that's what I used a lot, because I was trying to make sure where we were streaming, and when I was taking things from Lightburn in, was it streaming that G code right? Was it actually adding? Was it enabling the 31, the S31 command and everything else? So yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's something, like I said, it's not like super important, but maybe. I don't know how many, I know everybody considers me more of an advanced user. So yeah, I do use that. For the average individual just buying the M2, I'm not sure if they would, but I'll tell you what, that watching that G code has helped me understand writing G code, because now I understand what, $ this means, $ that means, and how it processes the G code. Just watching the dang thing run helps you. That's just my
yeah, absolutely. Totally agree with that. That's great. So have you talked to Chris? Did he intentionally remove that, or was that
I don't know. I haven't talked to him about that. I have that on my 1.1.4 video I did on it. I specifically point up there and I drop down and I say, hey, usually I like to watch that. That's gone. That's no big deal. But, me as an end user, I like to use that. Maybe it'll come back. But maybe it was just something that Chris removed and he plans on bringing back at a later date. It's not affecting anybody else, probably just a handful of your users out there.
Right. Gotcha. Okay. So I got another question for y'all about the Z. We've been going back and forth on this, and this whole idea of machine position versus work position makes a ton of sense for X and Y, but for Z, it's really dependent on the bit or the module, say laser module you're using, right? So machine position for a Z doesn't really, to me, mean anything. It's always work position. It's always based on whatever tool you're using to get the job done. So is there any reason to have a machine versus a work offset for the Z axis?
You know what? I don't think it makes sense think about your users. This is just my 2 cents because of a lot of the feedback, a lot of the private messages I've had with people.
Mm-hmm.
People get confused with machine home and work home. The reality is you set a work home every time you use your unit. You're gonna cut a new design or even use the laser. You're always setting a new work home. So I would take out the machine home. Just have work home, because I have so many people. I see 2 types of questions. A, what the heck is work home? Nobody understands that, and it takes me a while to explain it. Then the next one is, well, when I upload my G code, the drawing is way up in the top right hand corner, the Y and the Z on the grid. How do I get that down? Well, you do that by setting the work home. Then it moves the drawing down to where the bit is in the grid, right? So it's kind of a catch-22 with people. If they, force them to use that work home, then you would get rid of both of those questions that are constantly asked on there.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we're kind of almost heading that direction right now, because with the latest version, we're, as you can see here, there is no more. So there's a set home button, but that's really a reset chains button. So we're changing some of the nomenclature around this, but in reality, we're essentially stripping any verbiage from this that allows the user to assert machine home. Like, this is your new machine home. That should be a process that is only enacted or created through the calibration widget. Right. And so if we can continue to improve the calibration process, reduce the amount of labor required to get through that, then that should be the only way and the most accurate way to reset machine home. The only question I have there then, Casey, is like, in terms of, okay, I don't assert a work offset, or I just want to go back to machine, my center, because this is, let's say, a full 4x8 project I'm about to run. So I need to be smack dab in the middle. Then they still need that understanding of some understanding of a machine home or center of waste board, or however you want to define it, so that they know how to get back there, right? They know that which button they're looking for that says, oh, go back, either clear work home so that you can go back to the very middle of the board, or go to machine home, or something to that nature, right?
Well, yeah, I would agree with that. I guess the only point I know is, and I do it all the time, I don't always put my work surface, my work board that I'm going to cut, right? I never put it on my spoil board the same way twice. Yeah. Sometimes it's over an inch, sometimes it's over a half an inch. So it doesn't matter. The machine home is the center of my waste board. It's not the center of my work board.
Right.
So I constantly load a new work surface on there, and I go to cut something. I guarantee you the work surface isn't the center of my waste board.
And then I'm the same way, Casey. I'm the same way.
Well, it's just physics 101. It's never going to be the same, right? So to me, you can use machine home to calibrate your unit, and it's nice to see where that center calibration is when you do that, because then when you run the what is not the edge precision, the other one, but whenever you run your calibration around the board,
precision.
Yeah, well, there's precision, and then there's another one, right?
There's the edge test or edge calibration.
Well, the edge calibration and then the precision calibration. To be honest with you, I never run the precision. I just run the edge, and it's more than sufficient for me. Yeah. But
that's why that's another thing I don't do either, because honestly, I because of the calibration, because a lot of times I'm not worried exactly what that piece is, because I'm not cutting exactly 4x8 to the edges and stuff like that. I'm just throwing a piece on there as long as I'm centered, and I leave waste around the side, so I'm really good. Yeah. I don't need precision very often.
Yeah, so I guess that's just my whole point, is work home or machine home is kind of an outdated item. It's more for $50,000 CNCs, to be honest with you. But for one that you load a work surface and you just screw the damn thing down to a waste board, work home is all anybody needs.
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, you're right. Because yeah, the big lasers, even honestly, the big lasers, like there is key pieces, like when we do large pieces with pass through and all that, having that machine home is great for certain things, but rarely do I ever use that, even on our big machines.
The only other thing in the software here, and I mean, I've heard this so many times. It's the biggest thing right now out there on what people are asking for is the upgrades. Is they just want a damn toggle switch to toggle on and off their soft limits.
Soft limits toggle.
Isn't there one in the settings, or at least there used to be?
Not that I've seen. Chris,
There used to be back in the day, and they just they took it. Chris took it out because there was issues.
Oh, not there. Back in your workspace. In the settings there, one of those on the left-hand side.
Left-hand side.
Towards the bottom.
The settings.
I was talking about re-enabling that.
Yeah, right there.
They took it out like in 1.1.
Soft limits enabled. Just change that to 0, right? And that turns it off.
Yeah, you just change it to 0 and it turns it on and off. But everybody's just asking for a button like up there next to where you have your sleep and reset. They just want to be able to toggle on and off there without having to go into settings, adjusting it, saving the setting, etc.
And a lot of the users don't understand that. And the thing is, I think the 80-20 rule, that's like one of those things that'd be great for because where the 20% of the features they use 80% of the time, and makes those easily accessible for them. Because I'll save you a lot of these frustrations with these new users.
Make sure you hit save.
There we go.
You got to hit save when you do
it.
So I think the $1 sign, $20 is soft limits enabled. If you put it on 0, then save it, then
there it is. Right there. Yeah.
Yeah. When you put it to 0, it automatically enters it in the command line. Now, if you move your Z-axis up too much, it will crash.
Okay, so look there. I just pressed pause and it stopped. Middle of that 500 millimeter movement.
Nice.
Right.
Nice.
So here's my question, and I know we don't want to always have a computer there going forward in the future. So I'm going to take a little bit of an aside though. How valuable would it be? I mean, we want an e-stop. We want to get to an e-stop for sure. For whatever reason, it seems to be more complicated than I feel like it should be. But what about a space bar? Just as in the interim, just hit space bar and it's going to immediately equal the pause sign, the exclamation point.
Yeah, I would just, if you want to do that, then you can have just a little thing that pops up right underneath a message across underneath. Yeah, right under where you're at, in big letters that says, for emergency stop, press space bar.
Yeah.
And it's on there. Every time you hit play, that pops up.
Hey, Casey, so I just messaged you in Facebook Messenger because I'm right now I'm using my Facebook portal on my cart. If you could put that into the Zoom chat, it's the one I'm using for our e-stops and they're $15 on Amazon and they're great. They're not complicated or anything like that. And I just sent you a link to the Amazon one. I just don't have a way to put it in our Zoom chat right a second.
You sent a link to an e-stop, Drew?
Yes, and it's a great one. I'll log in with my phone real quick so I won't have to carry this cart downstairs and I'll show you how I
Have you utilized it with the M2 yet?
Oh yeah, I'm using it. Hang on. I'll go downstairs. I'm gonna get on my phone real quick. I'll go downstairs and I'll log on and show you. I'll show it to you.
I would love to see that.
Yeah, we were just talking about that, Patrick. He has it. I think the way he was explaining it is it's a one of those ones that goes on the power cord. But what people are looking for is one that kills the power to the motor shield, so it doesn't just stop or you don't lose your project in the Arduino, right?
Yeah.
So you just need a motor interrupt in
it's basically how. So I have them on both these. So I have it's covered up right now. So I have them on here, and I have the flap taken off this one, but on this one, so I have these, and they're super simple. So this is it. Turn it on, press it, kill it. And the nice thing too is it's just an easy way. And the beautiful thing about it is
So it just plugs into the wall where my router's plugged in. And then over here, this just plugged in. So the power supply for the shield and the router are plugged into this other end right here off the little extension cord. And so all it is basically, it's just turning on, it's just cutting power to the router and the power brick for the Arduino shield. So Arduino stays on. You don't lose connection with Arduino or anything. All you're doing is it's just not giving enough power to move the steppers or anything.
So then it's powered by your computer instead of yeah.
So your Arduino will just switch to your USB. If you kill power to the shield, your Arduino and the shield will still be powered by the 5-volt USB. The only thing it won't screen that stuff out. In fact, the motors will still try to move. They just won't. They don't have enough power to move. But the router stops and the the motor stop. So, and it doesn't screw anything up. And they're super easy. I just added them right to the side. The only thing I kind of did that I forgot with the other one is I added them a little too far forward, so the sled was hitting it. So I had to move it back a little bit so the sled didn't hit it when it came all the way to the edge. But these are great, and they're easy because you don't actually have to do any wiring yourself. You literally has a plug on one end and a plug out on the other. That's it.
So then my question, Drew, is what does the Makerverse interface say when you do that? Does it just throw an error saying it can't power?
Nope, doesn't know. As far as Makerverse goes, it's still running. Makerverse doesn't even know it's stopped.
It's going to still keep processing. It's going to still keep processing lines of G code.
Yeah,
that's what we want. We want it to stop.
So you lose your spot.
Yeah.
You'll lose your spot, but if you're fast, if you hit, so you can hit stop. You can hit that real quick and you'll hit stop, and you'll be okay. But it's great in a situation where all of a sudden that router catches, or something happens, or something goes wrong, or you go to accidentally. You're not paying attention. You accidentally stretch a spring. You can stop it before you do a lot of damage. You know what I mean?
Spring, Drew?
Way to stop things quickly, and we've damaged a lot of these things screwing around.
I've read several posts with folks on the Facebook page where they said they have those plug-in modules to where the e-stop cuts all power to the Arduino and the motor shield, and they said it does stop it, but they always lose their work.
You'll lose your work if you do it that way. You'll lose your work, and the old ones you'd lose calibration. Now you don't lose calibration, but with the old ones you'd lose calibration also.
Yeah,
and that's why I went with those original. That's why I went with those. But again, those are just great when you just need to do a quick stop. And for people that aren't interested to go hit stop, they don't realize it's on pause. If you have something where that's caught and you're getting damage, or it's starting to bend something, it's the best way because you can just whack it. Hang on, I'm gonna switch.
Interesting. You know, like, okay. So,
sorry, I'm a shoot. Yeah. Okay, now we go. Sorry, it was on two devices at once.
Okay, so let me just go back to the screen share here real quick. So if I'm back here again, just argument's sake, and I'm gonna just jog myself over 1,000 millimeters. We can see I'm jogging, right? Well, I was jogging. There we go. Jogging. I press pause. Okay. So it's paused, right? It's completely interrupted. So the question.
Well, as far as making, but this is also too where Casey is saying if you look at the streaming G code, so on the console it shows it paused instantly, and in Makerverse thinks it paused instantly. It may still be streaming that in the back end.
And if I press play though, it's back to it.
Yeah.
But again, when I'm pausing this in the middle of a project, it's truly pausing. So my question is, if that's the case, then could we not just get something like this? Like, what would it mean to just have like a remote control for your computer, and then just, you know, the space bar is your e-stop, essentially a remote e-stop, or something simple in that instance.
You can buy USB e-stops too. That one I showed you in there, you can buy USB e-stop versions of those that you can program to do things. You have to still the other thing you could do too is you'll have some open IO on the shield. You could do it where you have one that just goes straight to the shield, and when you hit it, it sends a command to there, because there is ability to do that on your shield you'll have currently with the M2 shield.
Okay.
If they've got USB e-stops, then you can set it to a specific keystroke, right?
Yeah.
So that when you hit it, it would act just like the pause button. And then you
That's
can set that
basically
up.
all it is. It just sees as a keyboard. The USB stops I've used before, they just see it. When you plug it in, it just recognizes an ASCII keyboard, and you just tell it what key you want. And so you just set what it basically. So yeah, you can set it to be a space bar. You can set it to be whatever you want. There's a bunch of different ones out. Some require a little third-party app. Like some require a driver, some don't. Some the ones I've used before literally just recognizes that ASCII keyboard when you plug it in. And so yeah, and I've used those on different things for some. Yeah. Right
Quick question. Is there a reason why you couldn't program the board to where if it loses power to the actual board that's controlling the motor, so your main power supply, that as soon as that power goes away, that it automatically pauses your work?
They don't have a feedback loop on that right now, because what's happening is that shield doesn't know that. You're going to get a low volt. What's going to happen, the steppers will still try to run everything else. All that's happening is the way that the shield's dying right now, you're just going from it's not getting enough power. You're just stepping, because the way the power circuit's built on that, it doesn't really have a feedback loop on that, as far as I know. So it just and if the power if the shield was in a way where it lost the 12 volt and it were to do that, it'd be fine. But right now, when it loses 12 volt, it still runs off 5 volts. So, because truly the shield itself is actually running off. What happens right now, that power supply, all it's doing is it's when you plug it 12 volt into it, it's really taking the 5 volt and everything else to operate the shield off the USB and off the Arduino. The only thing, and there's that the power circuit in there is splitting that 12 volt to the stepper drivers. And so the shield itself doesn't know whether or not there's 12 volt coming in. It just.
So I'm playing with it right now, the pause button and everything, Patrick. Mm-hmm. So here's the thing. I guess I just realized this. If you hit the pause button, it does pause the machine, but you can't hit play again, because then it starts enacting that last command. So if you didn't want it to go 500 millimeters, it's going to keep going that 500 millimeters. Right. You ever hit play. Sure. So what you need is your space bar needs to hit pause and then click the reset button, and it shuts that command off.
Yeah, and that's what I do when we do the if I hit the emergency switches, I hit the reset usually after I hit the emergency switch.
So can you guys let me know if you guys still see the unit here behind me?
Yeah.
Let me so I'm opening up Makerverse here. So if I hit reset, if I go over, I just set 500 millimeters. I'm going to move the sled this way. So if I move the sled, and let's say, oop, I didn't want to move that far, I hit pause. It stops it. That's exactly what we want to do. But now I have two options, play and pause. If I hit play again, it's going to keep executing. Yep. So what you need is that space bar. If you could just program that in, your space bar will go ahead and it'll act like it hits the pause. And now if I hit reset, right now I have play, right? If I hit reset, it shuts that line of code off.
What does it do though, Casey? Because so I think that depends on what the situation is, right? Like, what does it do if you're halfway through a project? Because let's be real. Like for most people, when they hit pause, when they're like, "Oh no," it's because like maybe the sled was lifted because it caught a nail, or like they didn't kit their offsets right, so they just need to pause it to restart, or pause to adjust something, right? So if you press reset, what does that do to the rest of the project?
Hold on, let me load something here real quick. Won't take but 2 seconds.
Yeah, Lauren, that's what I'm thinking too. Is it's going to kill it?
Well,
at least on the old one it did.
Well, you're not hitting the trash can to dump the G code. Right?
Yeah, so I'm just curious.
So if you just hit the reset, let me just load up something really stupid simple here.
So I haven't played the new one, but the old one, when you hit reset, it didn't throw it away, but it wanted to restart the whole project. So if you're running an hour-long or a 2-hour-long project, you're basically restarting it.
Yeah.
Or at least what I was doing.
Yeah, possibly. But that's just it. If it's just programming, you can program in, it's easier to program in the pause and then cache the rest of the G code and then hit reset to stop that last line.
Yeah, because I went based off your guidance, Casey. I went back and the longer projects, I basically figured out where I was in that code and those lines, because it tells you how many lines of code you ran, right? And basically just reset it and started it at that line of code again. But if you're not into coding and those kind of things, or into understanding what's happening in the background of your machine, you're going to struggle with that.
I do it for dummies. I just go back and delete the paths from easel that I'd already used and then drop in the same file minus those initial paths.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
that's another way to do it.
So what I just did, I don't know if you guys can see the board. I just loaded in a 100 by 100 millimeter square, an instant file. So I'm going to go ahead and hit play on this. And I'm going to, so once I hit play, it's going to start, wait a minute. It's going to want to, there we go. Now we should be good. It's going to want to lower my Z axis. Okay, so once I hit play, it's going to want to do whatever it's going to do, right? I will hit the pause button, and then I'm going to hit reset, and I'm going to see what it does to my G code file that I loaded. Okay?
Doing spotlight, perfect. They can see you.
Okay. Now let's see. See, I can't drop down and look at my G code. This is where I would use that drop down thing and look at my G code to see what line I'm on.
Right.
So
Casey, what I would do before you don't hit pause yet, get it to one of the vertical before you hit pause. You see what I'm saying? So when you hit play again, does it go horizontal again or does it go vertical? Continue vertical.
So there, I just ran it over and now it's going up.
Okay.
And I just paused it. Okay. So now you want me to hit the reset, right?
Yeah.
Reset board connection or stop program execution projects will be. Yeah. See if I hit reset.
And then you hit play again. What
Let me
happens?
see if it goes back to, if I hit play again, does it go back to? Oh, did you see that?
Whoa.
I hit reset, and when I hit play, it went back and started at the last line of G code. Boom,
Whoa.
that's what everybody has been looking for. Let me test that again. I'm jazzed.
You just figured out something awesome.
Oh my God, I about peed myself.
That's huge.
Okay, so let me play. If so, it's already got the e-stop functionality. Let me go to the next where it goes around the side. So it finished that line. Let it get halfway through here. Pause. Let me hit reset. And then let me hit play. Oh, it didn't reset.
And you sell pre-assembled kits.
Hold on, there it is.
Nice, Drew.
Sorry, I had to get my daughter Chick-fil-A.
Now it's going back down again.
It went back down to the last line of G code that it had. So let it go. Hold on. Let me get farther. Oh. Let it go over there. Let it go over. I'm going to let it go get on its downward movement. I think one line of G code is actually all the way around. It's only a 100 millimeter box.
Yeah, so it's actually got like 4 codes.
That's right. It's got like 4 lines of code. That's it. So
I didn't think about that when you
said one to test on. Let me.
You should have done a circle and do circles. I'm a circle guy.
Okay. Pause. Now I'll hit reset.
Yeah.
And I found I have to hit reset. Then it shows the sleep button. Then over here, if I press play, where does it go?
Back over to the bottom right corner.
Yeah.
And your thing's broken, Casey.
It's all blowed up, damn it.
It's
I want the new mount y'all made. Will y'all send me the STLs for the new mount y'all designed for the laser?
Yeah, we can get you one.
Print one. I'll even print it on the 300X. Yeah. So one thing, Patrick, is gonna be interesting is y'all's 300X, man. So 3D printing market's like crazy. Like 6 years ago, 7 years ago, y'all would have got bought up like in a heartbeat. The 3D printing market's tough now. It's crazy because, but I think y'all are prime for STEM because if y'all get the education market, y'all are so much better than all the other educational person out there. It's a tough one to get into.
Yeah, but we got
the distributors
on the team who's an actual teacher, and we pulled him over from NWA 3D. He's a boss, and
Drew is awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
That was weird.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking about teaching. I've been trying to teach my kids. My way of teaching is like, here's YouTube. Here's what to do not to break the machine. Like with the thing, like make sure I have big signs saying make sure the chiller is at 15 degrees.
Yeah.
And make sure the air assist is on. And well, the air assist turns on automatically, but make sure it doesn't go off. And here's a bucket of water with a rag. And besides that, YouTube.
YouTube. The U of tube.
Yeah, I'm a horrible teacher.
Are y'all trying to get into like high school or college?
Yes.
I think high schools would be your best bet because the college is like the university's here. I don't know. Yeah, your universities seem to buy like crazy. Like the one over here, like Trinity, has like objects and all that shit.
We're right down the street. I can walk to the University of Arkansas from here, so like we're right down the street from them. So we partner with them for a lot. One thing I don't want to get too far off from Casey, what Casey's up to here, because this is important stuff. But one thing that I am very convinced of with 3D printing is that what we need to do is focus less on creating massive cube shape build volume and do more low slung build volume where we ship a complete unit that way. Because in reality, let's be honest, like if somebody's going to make something that's truly functional, it's not going to be a large thing like this. It's not going to be a vase or something that loses water like a sieve. It's going to be like a functional furniture joint or a speed square or C-clamps or what are the things that you can functionally make with something like this. None of those things require like a cubed out 12-inch volume. They require like 2 axes of big space and a third axis of 6 inches maybe, right?
Who does an excellent job, and I hate to hate this, but too, one of the best printers I've ever had as far as FDM is the Dremel. The Dremel's, it's beautiful. They're using Creality now. They're using a cloud software, but they've done an amazing job. And your printer feature for feature is way better than theirs. And one thing you can match Dremel on. So when you call it Dremel, actually sport, like I was doing carbon in mine and nylon, and so I ran it I overrode the firmware and did it way past heat settings, and I literally melted the hot end. And I called them. I was like, "Hey, I didn't buy it. It was a year out of warranty." I was like, "Hey, I didn't buy a new hot end on it." And I was like, "I fried it," and they were super good. They just like, "Yeah, we're Glowforge was like, F you, good luck." And I was just a week out of warranty, and it wasn't even an issue I did with Glowforge. It was just it was a warranty issue with a bad board. But with the Dremel, they like, "Oh, no problem." I was like, "Well, I can buy one." Like, no, they overnighted me a new hot end. Like no questions asked, even way out of warranty. And then I had a control board go bad on it 2 years out of warranty. And I called them and they're like, "Yeah, we can." And I was like, you can send it back. I was like, "Can I just pop the board out?" Cause I was like, "Oh, you know what you're doing?" I was like, "Yeah." And the support people were actually the techs, the Billy Printer, like with y'all. So when you get support, you're getting Drew and Patrick, and so y'all have the same thing that Dremel has. Y'all compete dead on with them, and you're not $1 billion company. And so y'all have that, but the thing they have is it's prepackaged. I think the support call. I've been on a lot of the ones with Drew and them and Mike, and in the morning, and it's the people getting frustrated. They're building them. It's that setup. If y'all have one just prepackaged, I think you're dead on. That will make it so much easier because the teachers don't know, and y'all are spending so much time and energy trying to train these teachers on how to set these things up.
And you're right. Had a lower if we had a lower gantry height, then we could prepackage them like that, right? That's the big thing, is that they make a huge cube. So I just think that the thing I keep thinking is that, like, all the Creality especially, they all come out with like the latest and greatest weird new adaptation of 3D printing. And then the next year it's gone again because nobody really cares. At the end of the day, most people who have a 3D printer right now have them because they like to tinker with them. And the people who don't have them don't because they don't make anything really useful yet. Right. So
yeah, or they end up dumping them on me. We literally had one thrown in our front lawn one day.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
they drove by, threw down their car into our front lawn.
Yeah. So I think we're all in ABS, we need a peak plastic printer is what we want to launch. That to me would be like just so choice. Casey,
one thing that's really cool is the conveyor belt. Sorry, I know something.
Oh, the conveyor one's cool.
But the problem is it's a nightmare. I've been watching YouTube videos of people trying to print them and the way they have to set, you have to off angle it and all that. It's a nightmare to deal with right now, everybody's saying. So I haven't bought one.
They need to just make it like a normal printer and then just convey that thing off the end and then start the next one.
I agree. I don't know why nobody's doing that.
I don't. That whole triangle frame is ridiculous.
It's horrible. I watched the YouTube videos because I was thinking about getting one, and they were just like the way you have to slice and you have to completely redo the way you're thinking your print. Yeah. So you have to do it at 5. It's a nightmare. Yeah. So, but yeah, I think you're right. If y'all prepackage, y'all be like dead on because your support, everything else, you have the best. The only other company that I could even slightly compare it to is Dremel, and Dremel's $1 billion company. So
that's pretty cool, though. Yeah. Casey, what'd you figure out there?
Yep.
So what it does is when you hit play on any G code file that you're loading there, the bit lifts and it goes to a spot. Then the bit lowers and starts its first cut. Every time I hit reset and I hit play, it goes back to that very first cut. So
it goes back doing exactly what I experienced before. It basically restarts the whole project.
Exactly. It goes back up to the very first layer. So like in Makerverse, you can actually move your camera and then tilt, right? And you can see the lines, the layers that it's going to cut. That's the other thing I do is I watch those lines and layers and I watch my G code. So I was watching it cut and I could see every depth line whenever it went down as it was processing the G code. And what it does is when you hit reset, all the lines come back. It lifts up, comes over and starts fresh right there. And then it starts running. So I know I say it, all you have to do is, it's never that easy, right? But all Chris has to do is cache those lines of G code. So he just has to cache those, save them. So when you hit the G code, it pulls those out of the cache and it knows where it was and it doesn't redo those old lines over. Then you'd have yourself a really nice e-stop and you can just use the space bar.
What about what if I've cut out 3 boxes and all in one project and I'm on the 3rd project and I'm 2 layers in and then I press pause and then
it's only cache that last command, so it'll be fine. You'll just go. I'll start right where that was.
Yeah, it won't run anything before your last cached command. That's just
so when you're saying excuse my ignorance. Well, you're saying you're caching the code. What do you mean? Because I've been going I'll explain what I do, and I may be saying the same thing. Like all my G code is really saved as like a README file or a notebook file. And then I was just going in and you can see how far along you are in the code. So if I'm down 3,000 lines in code, it'll tell you on the bottom of the screen how far I am down, and I'll delete 1,290 or 1,999 one before, delete those out, resave it as a new, and then play that one. Is that what you mean by cache or?
Yeah. So what it'll do is every time it wipes out a new line of G code, by the way, you can't see that anymore in Maker. The 114, you're one of those users like me. I like to watch my G code as the commands are tripped off. So I know what line of code I'm on, right? Just in case no shit factor. Well, as it goes through, every time it wipes out a line, it runs a line. It's going to take that line and it's going to save it in a temporary memory file. That's caching. It's going to save that one line. Then it's going to go ahead and keep processing the next one. And when that one is done, it's going to cache that one and the other one will get deleted. So it's always going to be saving your last line of G code you ran. Anything after that or before that is gone. You've already cut it. You don't need it.
There is a buffer in there too, so you could also step back if you don't do a caching. So it does have a buffer. It is buffering some of that. So what you could do too is you could always have it step back 2 lines, or step back 1 command. If you do that, because it does technically already have a cache in there that nothing we can do. So my friends, there's a huge, we want to get in a huge fight between some of my friends and I. Go cache versus cache. That long story, but anyway, so it's never hit your life. But we've gone into full on brawls over cache versus cache. But anyways, but I'm just but what do you call it? But no, there is a buffer in there, so you could do it. It is buffer because the Arduino, the Megas have 2 megs of storage. I know they're more than that. I forget what the Megas have, but I think the Shield y'all have too. I think y'all Shield also has a buffer in it. So there's a way to do it without you have to go as far as doing cache. You just have a step back, because if it shouldn't be. Even though it's streaming, you should be able to step that back without having to have.
Gotcha. So I heard a few answers at once. So Casey, real quick, again, that 3 box thing. If I'm cutting out a project with 3 boxes and I'm on the 3rd box, the first 2 are complete, and I press pause and reset currently today, what would happen? Would it go back to box 1 or would it restart box 3?
Well, if you cached the last line of code, it doesn't matter what the hell you're cutting, right? It's only going to go back to that last line of code and start from there and start up.
If we did what you recommend implementing, but today it would go back to box 1.
That's right. Yeah. Yep. So it's like it's still. So that tells me that in the software, it already has the memory set in it for the entire line of G code, right? All it's doing is it's not buffering, caching, whatever we want to say. All it's doing is not saying, I've already ran these, I want to start here. That's it. If you have that, you're golden. Now, just a really quick note there is, I was watching a thing on our Facebook page where there was a lot of people going back and forth about what a real e-stop is. I mean, you got the diehard folks out there that say, hey, if it's not mechanical in nature, it is not a true e-stop. Software shutdown is not a true e-stop. And they're right, because your router's still running. Right?
That's why I like those e-stops that we have. That's my biggest thing. I don't even care if I have to screw things up. I'm more worried about saving my machine than that. If I can redo a piece of wood if I need to. But damaging the machine, or worse comes to worse, like even with the Maslow's, it's not that expensive for parts. But if you have to have one shipped to you, you have a project you need to get out, something's damaged, you bend to something or whatever, and you don't have a way to fix it, you could be like with you, Lord, you have issues where if your machine's down for a couple of days, it can cause you a backlog on your jobs. So for me, that mechanical e-stop's critical because I'm killing that router. If I have to, even if it screws up the job a little bit, screw it. The worst comes to worst, I'm out 2 hours worth of work and restart it, and maybe $10 in wood, versus the parts that may break a spring or something else, or damage an end mill. But the worst part is if you don't have one of those end mills, you have something else, and you're down for a couple of days because you're ruined apart. That's why I like those e-stops.
Gotcha. Cool. We're currently about 10 over right now, guys. This is awesome info. How would any of you all be interested in testing out our spindle unit already?
Yes, please.
You guys have the proper bracket for it.
I have people complaining in the offices next door because I have some of the co-working offices that we have, and I have one of the offices just sits empty all the time, which is killing me because it's like $1,000 a month down the drain because it's the one right next to the damn Maslow's. And so that and I've got chillers, I've got tons of extra chillers and everything else. If you have a water cooled one too, I keep meaning to buy a water cooled one, but I can run a water cooled one. And that way, because that's what I'm interested in. It's just even though you can do spindle control and all that, which is nice. So you can do variable speeds. The bigger, oh yes, is it a brushless? That's a brush though, or is it brushless?
Brushless.
That's nice because it should be so much quieter.
Very quiet.
That's what I'm interested in because I have that one damn office that nobody wants to rent. So I end up running my Maslow's at night so that I don't end up losing rent on that office.
It would be so the value prop to the current router base is it would be cheaper, quieter. You would have onboard spindle speed control through Makerverse. and it would be likely a big reduction in bit deflection just based on how we're going to cradle the thing in there. Also, in 5, way faster to change out bits, way easier. No more wrapping your knuckles.
Well, spindle control will be huge because if you set spindle control for different areas, so if you have something that's doing a straight cut versus you have some fine detail, you could do those variable speeds for the same part with the same end mill, and you could make your projects a lot faster. And but I think I've had there's an apartment complex downtown which they call it the Maker apartments or whatever. So each apartment it's basically like a little garage attached to each damn apartment. They want us to come down there and see about doing some makerspace stuff for them, but the one thing they were like, well, if we're going to recommend people to get machines, we need machines that we can recommend them to have that aren't going to be too loud. So I'm like, well, you can't put a makerspace in an apartment. Each apartment has like their own little workshop in them. It's like craft. It's cool. I hate apartments, but it's cool. But I think you'd have a lot of people that may have apartments or may have other things like that or duplexes that they could actually run them because that may have issues.
Yep.
Whereas me, if my neighbors complain, I just grab the shotgun and say, "What?" and then they never complain again.
Don't know why.
I don't. Yeah. No. But yeah, I think that would be nice because in neighborhoods too. Because if you're running in your garage and you want to open your garage to get dust, stuff like that, you don't want to be running at night.
The top back is the loudest thing at that point.
Yeah, or your kids. If you have kids, I have 5 kids. You don't be running a Mazda all night when you have a 4-year-old you're trying to get down. So,
Casey, were you on board with it too, testing it out?
Sure. Like I said, as long as you guys already have the mount designed, it's just plug and play. Yeah, I'll give it a whack. I'll take some decibel tests and see if it, because you guys, I'm a little bit different. I'm in an enclosed shop. I'm enclosed, air conditioned, right? So I like to keep cool during the summer, but in here, noise is really important because I'm in an enclosed shop. I'm not outside. I don't have the doors open. So keeping the noise down.
It's 96 degrees in here right now.
Oh,
yeah. That's the nice thing is I have the office upstairs. Those are offices I go into, but I actually got used to it. I just wear flip flops and shorts, and so sometimes a shirt. My wife's made me start wearing shirts to meetings. So, but yeah. As long as you spray down with the hose, you're good. But yeah, it is interesting. Yeah, it'd be good for that. I think it'd be interesting with dust control too, because I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of possible advantages to it. So in Casey, we'll make a mount. The primary mount is actually going to fit in the 71 millimeter clamp because we've already got like 1,300 of them just sitting around. So we're just going to keep shipping the 71 millimeter clamp. So it'll just like the laser, it'll just nest right in there. But it's going to house the hell out of that thing to really reduce deflection.
What's the map? What's the map? Oh, sorry.
It needs to have cooling on it, right? I mean, the housing has to have airflow around it. So
yeah. So
that's an air cooled one. You can see that one's an air cooled. You see the fan. Half that isn't actually a fan on the back end. That's one of the air cooled ones. And so you can put heat sinks on it, like with my other ones that you can have heat sinks. So you could make the mount like if you do an aluminum block, that will work well as a heat sink. But that end mill that spindle that's holding up will actually do pretty cool itself.
Yeah. So as long as we just don't obstruct these vents, right? That's essentially what we got to make sure that we're not going to do is just obstruct those. So the whole thing will cradle essentially that way to really, again, because like we talked about with Dustin before, like holding it up here, that's what we want to get away from. We want to really get to where we're just kind of squeezing it down like that. And that's going to make sure that thing is going nowhere fast when it's hogging out on like a 1/4 inch bit at, an 1/8 a pass.
So are you going to do a different control board for that? And sorry, Lauren, I jumped in front of yours, but are you going to do a different control board or are you going to power it off the shield itself? Just something off the PWM or the spindle port?
Yeah. So it's a 24 volt spindle, but we obviously pass it through 12 volts on the board. But it's a 20,000 RPM spindle, so that will drop it immediately to 10, and then you can control down from there. So yeah, it'll come right off the board.
That's perfect. Yeah, and the nice thing is with that, I've learned firsthand, you don't have to have a pull-up resistor between.
because I know the spindle port works beautifully without having, unlike the laser port. So yeah.
Cool. Well, so Dustin, you came in a little bit late. We talked a little bit about 1.1.4, so the new version of Makerverse. If you're open to trying out new versions, would definitely recommend downloading that one and giving it a try. I really enjoy it. Casey's one big complaint is the G code. You're not able to see it in real time, so I've got on my list to go back and check on that and see if we can get that added back in as an option. And then we've been talking about ways that we can continue to support businesses on here and how we can, what kind of topics we can have in this group going forward, how we can take this from just a like, here's how to use an M2 and does anybody have any issues to like, how do we make this really valuable for power users like Drew and Casey, Dustin, Lauren, all y'all? Like, how do we make this really interesting and exciting? Like, I don't know, do we make projects together? Do we,
I think Lauren would be a perfect use case for actual, like most of your clients you're talking about, because Lauren's actually doing it and Casey really doing it in a way that is truly they're doing products for people. So I think it'd be interesting. And I think Lauren, you were asking how much you think that spindle kit would cost. Sorry, real quick.
No, it's all right. I'm very interested in the spindle because honestly, like I love my rigid products, but that router just messing, changing bits, and really as I'm deep diving, I've been doing a whole lot of VCarve, and I meant to post of the day because I've been doing all my test cuts, and I don't know how many of y'all, Drew used to be in the military, like, you know, like every symbol has 1,000 different little tiny intricacies to it, and I was taking and making cuts and just using a VCarve bit from, what was it called, from Tools Today, and I took a normal cut that I think it was supposed to be like 18 by 15, like a pretty good size, and I was like, oh, I don't want to waste a lot of time. I took it down to 4 inches, and I meant to take a picture because it cut it beautifully.
Really?
And I almost posted it in the page, but I was afraid I was going to start a war about when you people talk about, oh, this machine ain't got it made. It did it very beautifully, and easily within 1/10 of a millimeter, if less, of accuracy.
That's why I like those V cuts. Yeah, the V cuts and the down cut are the main two I use for everything. I know there's other ones that can be better for certain things, but really at the end of the way, down cuts, if you put air, if you blow it, you're fine. You can blow stuff out there. And the V cuts, like what you're doing, a lot of signs and stuff, Lauren, V cuts are perfect for most everything.
So we're getting into the military memorabilia. So we're looking at a whole lot of like cutting boards with engravings in them, custom engravings with either just leaving them as they are if they're less than an 1/8 inch deep, or actually if they're getting a little deeper, doing actual what is it called, resin fills, food safe resin, and just overlaying it with that. So it's a lot of different fun stuff, but the real problem with any kind of VCarve is usually you're doing multiple bits, and that change out time and just running through the code quickly is the challenge.
I would definitely send Patrick. I would definitely send the spindle to Lauren because he is literally on here like every single week almost, and then like he'd be like a perfect use case for that thing.
But it's really just getting used to it. I don't know. My router is very loud, but I'm also running out of a garage, and my neighbors are nice enough not to complain. And I'm a just buy a cheap set of cheap noise canceling headphones. The bit changing, I've messed with spindles before. That would be so nice just to be able to quickly change bits. Or I'm assuming it comes with preset collets already, where you can pop in and out. You have your bits already in the collets and it's ready to go.
Well, there's different ways we can do it. We've talked about that, but it also just depends on the type of chuck we end up going with. Like there's different versions that we can utilize. Like this is more standard to like a drill press, but it's really easy and it doesn't require any kind of reducers on it.
Right.
But there's other options. So we're playing around with that right now. But yeah, definitely part of the value of it is that when it's housed, we don't want it to be where you have to loosen those Allen keys to pull it out. We just want to be able to pop out real quick and easy, and then you can change your bit out like right here, right? Because part of the thing is like, in my mind, is just seeing how deep you've got that thing set in there, right? That's a really key thing that you can't see when you're looking at that M2 right now.
That's the other challenge I ran into, right? So when you're messing with a router and you're changing that bit, a lot of times you've got to loosen the actual clamp, pull the whole router out, especially if you're running larger bits. So if you're doing a pocket, you're probably running a 1/2 inch bit, even though you're just taking tiny layers off, you're trying to cut quickly. So the problem I ran into is matching that depth. Yep. When I'm going from my V bit, doing all my initial cuts, do the painting, and then I'm ready to take it all off, getting that right and setting that depth, because every bit's a little bit different in length. Getting that depth right has just been a pain. Now,
if you can get a surfacing
king of all bits, but
so surfacing end mills, I don't know if we can get one for the mount. Like this is a massive, obviously one. This thing weighs probably 80 pounds, but you can get, if you get a small surfacing one, Lauren, that would also make your life a lot easier. Because
I do have a 2-inch surfacing bit that I have used. And that's usually not the problem, because a lot of times, basically I've got a store just down the road where I buy a lot of surplus goods. So they everything from my latest one I'm messing around with rubber wood. I don't know if you've ever messed with rubber wood, but it weighs unbelievable. I made my father-in-law a 25-inch by 30-inch cutting board, and it weighed in closer to 70 pounds. I say it's heavy. It's heavy. Now I'd show a picture of it, but yeah, it's just a giant like Superman symbol. Just instead of an S, I put his last initial in it, so change it to a B. But it's just like, it's very easy, and flattening, that's not the problem. It's really when you're trying to tilt that router and get the exact same depth and resetting it to 0 quickly. And a lot of times when you're running that code, if you're in the middle of a project, a lot of the coding says, oh, it'll go into like a pause mode, but you can't adjust the Z axis. What I'm struggling with is adjusting that Z axis. So basically you have to change the router and slide it in and out. You can't change your Z axis in the middle of the code and then start again, because when you pause it, it pauses everything. So that's the challenge I'm running into. Now, obviously, that's what I've been doing, is basically popping the router out, adjusting the bit, and then just sliding it in and out of that clamp. But as we discussed before, the closer you are to the end of that router, the less deflection you have. And so it's been fun to kind of explore it as I get into these larger cuts.
Why don't you use a separate file when you're changing out your bit?
So that's what I ultimately ended up doing, is I ended up creating multiple files, and then I have my V-carve cut, I have my contour cuts, and it goes through multiple files. But obviously, when you're talking about time, right now it's not that big of a deal. But we've honestly been looking at a place that's just outside of the base here. It's shutting down, and it's they're basically where everybody goes to get their awards and all that stuff. They're looking to retire, and me and my wife have considered just taking it over.
If you can, Lauren, get a good deal. If they do a bigger shot. So a lot of the equipment I've got, like big mills. So one of my buddies bought. So I've got those huge, massive mills that like take these and this one, it's really cool. It automatically changes them. So it holds 8 of these at a time and automatically changes the end mills, which is really fun. I honestly don't even know how to use the damn thing. All I know how to do is do the G code to change the things and shift the weight, because it shakes the building. It's pretty fun. But you can get. I got those machines, all 3 of them for $5,000.
No, I don't disagree with you. Those are nice. The challenge that you run into with those machines, and this is where I've said, like, you get your trade-offs. Everything's a trade. Those machines are huge. I mean, you're talking about taking up a lot of space. And when you're trying to maximize space in a small business, I can't afford to blow 10 foot by 6 foot in the middle of my room. And usually CNC's machines aren't meant to be like, you put stuff on top and you work on their tabletop. They're meant to be like standalone space.
And they take so much.
I move into that business world, I'm looking to look like you, Drew, where I have like 3 along the wall and they're all running as needed. That's the case.
Lauren, you'll never be able to afford the electricity to run those freaking.
Yeah, these are 250 amps, and it takes 150 gallons of cutting oil. And so honestly, I've refired them. I actually have them unplugged, and that's part of the reason I had that big thing. We were getting them rigged to move somewhere else, because they just take up space. And not only that, you have to have a massive foundation, because we have a 4-foot loading dock, 4-foot concrete slab loading dock. It sunk our concrete slab, ripped it away from the building. You can just getting them in and out, because we had to use a 30,000-pound forklift on top of a 12,000-pound machine. So yeah, it's not, but you can get good deals on this equipment. So yeah, I wouldn't buy the big mill stuff like that. I happened to be drinking beers with the owner of the factory, because he's a buddy of mine, and it was one of the, some people get drunk and end up with stupid things. I ended up with mills, because he needed to get them out of his factory for his new ones, and I was a Ponzi that ended up stupid enough to get them rigged and over here. But But yeah, so but if you get smaller ones like my lasers and stuff like that, I've gotten really good deals. And then I have that Object 30 Pro downstairs. It's a $40,000 3D printer. I got with all the setup, everything else, and they had owed still 28,000 on it, and Object didn't want to ship it back. They didn't want to deal with it, and so I was like, look, I'll offer you 4,000 for it, and they sold it to me for so they wrote Object wrote off the rest of the money that was owed on the lease and said, yeah, it's yours. And so if you go, you might check with that, because if they have equipment still on leases, like I've got a digital printing press downstairs too that one of the places just gave me because they just upgraded theirs, and they just gave it to me because they're like, it's $100. They're going to buy it out for $100 at the end of the lease. They replace them every 2 years, and the owner called me. He's like, hey, you want this thing? And I was like, you can have it for $100. I'm like, sure. So yeah, I would check. And if they have leases stolen, don't let the lease company take them. So if there's some they have set aside when they're doing that, saying, hey, this is still on a lease, don't tell them you're taking over the company. Tell them, hey, we're interested in buying the equipment. This company's shutting down. They're going to ship it back to everything else. Even if there's there was still 22,000 or 28,000 left on that lease for Object, and they said we'll write off 24,000 of it. So check.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And we're looking to pick up their smaller machines, but they don't have anything. They're not running anything this large. And I've already talked to the wife. Like we're planning on buying the laser towards the end of the year. I'm hoping we can upgrade the laser to a deeper cut. I've been following you pretty well, Casey, on your cuts, and they look very nice. I would just like to be able to cut a little deeper.
If you get the laser mount for that too. So I've actually been enjoying the laser. I have now one of those M2s is dedicated as a laser with the JTech. It's great for certain big things where I don't want to have to do it. And there's things where we've done some for architects. We did some felts like wall hangings and stuff like that. It's perfect for that because we did 4x8 cuts for those. And so, and then you could always get a big one. And a lot of these they'll tell you, oh, like this is 100 watt. You can go on Amazon and buy CO2 lasers. You can buy a 150 watt CO2 laser and throw in. Just make sure the power supply can handle it. But at the end of the day, they're all going to most of the lasers you can get are going to be Rudia controllers. And so once you just how you've got your Maslow down. Like I've got a bunch of lasers. I have some downstairs, and they're like there's 150 watt behind me and some 120 watts of stuff. I built them all. This one I got for free actually because it caught on fire, and it burned up, and I rebuilt it. The Rudia controller was good and everything else, but I boiled all the aluminum and scraped all the plastic off of it, and then put it. And the tube was still good, which is the most expensive part of them. And then that's a chiller I got from a electron microscope chiller that I got from a company that went out of business. That's a $70,000 chiller I got for $200 because nobody knew what to do with it. And so, yeah, I went to one of those one of those closing companies like years ago. You check a lot of those around you. I find all kinds of crazy equipment that people don't understand, like that chiller. No, they had two of them. I actually have another one downstairs. They had two of them. And I called Haskins, and they're really good. That company supported me and everything else. And they're like, how much? I told them, I was like, I bought this thing used. I don't know. I bought it at auction. Like, how much you get for it? 200. I was like, $200. Like, they paid $75,000 for that thing a couple years ago. I was like, oh damn. So yeah. So you'll be amazed some of the deals you can find on crap if you just follow those. If you get that store too, but look for some of those other things too. But chillers you'll be able to find amazing cheap because people just don't know what they are. They don't understand. And the ones that work for electron microscopes, they're all the same. It's at the end of the day, you're pumping cold water. Whether it's the ones I have two downstairs, they're water cooled water chillers. Those are a pain in the ass because you can run them indoors. So they don't heat up your space. They're not pumping hot air. They're pumping water over the condenser to kill. So it's a water chiller. But your water bills will go through the roof. You run it nonstop. What do you call it? But yeah, that'd be really cool if you can get that shop. You get some awesome stuff. That'd be really cool.
Hey Casey, real quick, y'all know I apologize. I came in about 45 minutes late. Do you recommend downloading the new software, or do you recommend waiting?
Yeah, I mean, I went from the 1.13 right to the 1.14. Right. I will download the latest version all the time, even if it's the beta. But from 1.12, is that the one you're using now? 1.12.
I think of 1.13.
The beta's actually good too. The new beta's actually really good too.
I just haven't downloaded 1.14. I saw y'all talking about it, and I was like, well, I'll wait till this meeting to kind of actually jump in, and I was gonna see what the pros and cons were.
Actually, I don't. There isn't a lot of cons on it. I mean, I haven't found a lot of bugs in it either, so it's pretty stable. It's pretty steady. The only thing is I didn't know there would be more people like me. I like to watch my G code as it goes through the lines, right? They took that functionality out for some reason. So Patrick is going to talk to Chris and see if he can get that brought back. The little drop down where you can actually watch your G code as it's going through. Maybe I was a little rare. Maybe I was the only one doing
I just
that.
say we set auto dialer to automatically send Chris a text like every 20 minutes until he puts that back in there.
That's the only negative.
Make a move. Patrick's like,
yeah. But you can still watch it function though. It still shows as it just doesn't say which line it's on.
That's right.
Yeah, it's not streaming. It's just the feed of what it pushes, not the live stream.
But it still tells you like how fast and the estimated end time and all that kind of stuff.
It tells all of that. And plus it has a new work home and everything else. Patrick's has the new Set Z work home, which mine doesn't, not in the 114. So I don't think they've released that yet, but
you can go in and download it in the beta right now.
That's what I was going to do when I got home is go ahead. Obviously I'm still at work, but I was going to go home and download it. I'm guessing like my only concern is anytime I download a new program is I'm assuming I can still run the 113 if the 114 crashed or something like that.
Yeah. No, not necessarily, because I had that issue. I was doing some beta testing for Chris, and sometimes, and I don't know what it is, and he doesn't know either, but if you download 113 and then you go ahead and download the new version beta 114 and you don't get rid of version 113, they'll crash each other. Sometimes it'll run, sometimes it doesn't. So, I mean, if you're going to go to 114, then you have to be dedicated enough to remove 113 from your computer all the way.
If you want to be beta testing a lot, do VirtualBox. Go get the VirtualBox is free, and I run VirtualBox for a lot of beta testing stuff. It's easy. You just run another virtual machine in there in your system, and it's super easy.
I'm assuming you didn't have to recalibrate when you went to 114. It just immediately went to town.
It kept all my original settings. Everything it automatically keeps all of that. So it kept my calibration. It kept my all the original settings for my board dimension. Everything was carried over. Now I did go ahead and recalibrate because I was setting up for the laser at the time, and I wanted to have 1 millimeter or less, or better of accuracy. So I went through and, my geeky thing, I tweaked everything until I got exactly 1 millimeter of accuracy on it. So
I was impressed. I was definitely impressed. I was like, man, that looks really good. And where I'm excited to do it is, I don't know if y'all have seen them. You can do the artworks that have the massive like topographical maps or things are real popular, or the cityscapes and stuff. Man, I mean, you can sell those for hundreds of dollars, and they're
so bad.
Yeah, I'll send y'all a picture of the cityscape we did. That's the cityscape we did. Is the one I was talking about for the theater sets. We did a cityscape, and that was out of that foam. One thing real quick that Chris said he added, and I know because I did it on one of our machines, he added where you can enable beta functions in Makerverse. So you can go in and enable to where it automatically will do beta updates if you wanted to. And so there is a setting in Makerverse now where you can allow for betas. And it's not like they're pushing major overhauls to anything right now. So betas are, being a beta test for this stuff isn't like, if you have bugs, it's not the end of the world.
We will be after 1.1.4. We will be static until we probably launch 2.0, which is also currently in the works right now. There's some big changes coming for that. So
sweet. Yeah, it would be interesting. I know this is kind of stupid, but so this is another thing. So with Lightburn, so everybody with the Glowforge, you can, it has the camera. You just put the camera, you look at it. People don't realize with Lightburn you can do the same thing. Like I have some my camera systems I don't like using the cameras just because it's easier. I have a dual laser system where I have a red dot that's centered in there, so I have a diode splitter at the end of the laser, so I have both the red dot and then the UV, so I can point. But the camera system. So if you get one, Lauren, you could actually, if you're using Lightburn, you could actually use this probably with the Makerverse. I played with Makerverse, using Lightburn with the M2, but you can get the cameras, the wide angle cameras,
and you can do where it takes a picture of the background, you just drag and drop a piece wherever you want. So you put, let's say you attach your board up there, you put your board in there, and then just drag and drop a piece where you want it. And if you calibrate it, it works really well. Even on these big ones, even these 4-foot machines, it works really well. If you got something neat, you can probably enable and Makerverse later.
Guys, quick question.
So, you use Lightburn or Makerverse when you're doing those cuts with a laser?
Say that again.
Casey, did you use Lightburn or did you use Makerverse for those cuts that you did?
You have to use both. You use Lightburn to design your program, and then you save the G code out of Lightburn.
Oh, so you basically did the easel version. You used Lightburn as an easel. And, okay.
Yeah, I used Lightburn and then
awesome.
The 1.14 version, the beta version. That worked great.
Yeah. Quick question.
$5 or $5. Okay.
Before we bounce. So talking about these bits, so we've got, I'm designing some combo bits for us. So what we've got in the office right now are compression V bits and compression bullnose bits in 1/8 inch, which I'm really excited to try because to me, I'm trying to get to a bit, to Lauren's point, that can do essentially everything, right? Do some panel and then drop down and carve out the whole thing as well. So I'm really excited about that. So we should have those up soon. But thinking about, Lauren, what you were saying in terms of like getting those things, getting the bits set when you're swapping them exactly right. You know, I know some of them sell those little rings or whatever. I can't think of what they're called. But what do you all think about just like on the bit itself? You know, these are water milled. So just having some very fine lines here that are like 1, 2 lines, 3 hash lines or something, so that you know exactly the distance. Like that's the 3-inch mark, that's the 4-inch mark, right? Something along those lines, or 2-inch brick.
That's a good idea. That's a really good idea.
So here's what I would do from my experience, right? So for the end user that may not, because I always try to think back to like when I interacted with this machine, kind of like stopping myself from being overwhelmed. And I did it with my dad, who's an old school woodworker. So he's the kind of guy to pull out a hand plane or use the old, trying to think.
Lauren, you might turn off your video. You're
getting
some disruption here.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, that's better. Thanks.
Okay, sorry about that. So what I would kind of recommend, and I think you're on the right track as you're developing bits, is maybe developing a set of bits with actual stop points on them. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So what I've also noticed is I've spent an exorbitant amount of money. I probably should show a picture because I had to admit that I have a bit problem. She may have shoes and clothes, and I have rubber bits. So what I realized is I was spending a lot of money on bits with an extreme amount of cutting space. Like, why I need a bit that can cut 1 3/4 inches or 2 inches, or really even 1 inch, because it's going to cut it in steps, right? So more than likely, the max you're cutting at one time is 1/4 inch.
Right.
Like I've done it once just to see if I could. I cut it down to 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch just to see if it would at like 5 inches per minute, right? Just to see what would happen. Just me being a horrible person to my machine, I guess. But with that in mind, when you develop your bits, I find that we do things and people buy things because they think they want to use it for something, and then they realize the reality isn't really there.
That's how I ended up with 90% of the shit I have.
That's great. So I got a bounce for a 1 o'clock I got here. Anything else we want to cover today?
Figure out those workshops. I think you should figure out those workshops.
Hey, can y'all hear me?
Yeah, get those workshops together, Patrick. Quick. We'll do one here. If I get the workshops together, we can start testing that quick. I think that will help. If people have a place they can go by locally and see them, and like I said, it's a win-win for me, and I think it'd be a win-win for y'all. If it doesn't work, here.
The best way to do that, Drew, is for you to demonstrate how we get there and use you as a case study, and we learn from that and then roll out elsewhere. Right now, it's gonna be like, I don't know exactly how to do this.
Wow, that was fast.
Yeah. Well, if y'all announce them, let's say we put the one together, we do a little workshop, or are y'all set up a place where you can do live, if people want to see them on your website, enable a place where people can come by and see them in person and talk to them in person. If y'all do that, we could do that, and you could put our location as a bait on there. Say, hey, if you're in Texas area, you want to come by and see one. Here's one. You probably have end users too. They'll do it, but I pretty much live here anyway, so but yeah, it's like what do you call it? Those would be. I think those would be good to get going, because that will also too help with some of these other things you have. So might as well just try it. I'd say just say, hey, even if it's not workshops yet, just say, hey, here's some places if you want to go by and see them, and you can put us down as number one, as the first one on your list, just to and see how people react to that if they can come by and see it in person and stuff.
Right on.
Even if it's not a full workshop.
Yeah, just real quick, Lauren, are you on here? Can you hear?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think I put my phone in a bad position in my building and I lost signal for a second. If you can hear me fine.
Yeah. Okay, so here's a really good future plan. You really need that spindle, and Patrick needs a 1 to 2 minute video on using the M2 to start your own home-based business. So if you could shoot one like that for him and shoot it over to him, he would love to send you a spindle to test.
Yeah, I do think Lauren. I
That's
think you're right, Casey. I think Lauren would be a perfect use case for that. Honestly, I'm completely with Casey on that.
I was just trying.
So
to
Pat, I didn't want to.
But you're right though, Casey. He would be. It'd be perfect. If you see the video, he's got the right setup for it, and he's truly doing the use case of what you're looking for. Where we're more prototyping and stuff like that. We do one-off projects for random things, but it's not really our business.
Yeah.
So.
Lauren, or yeah.
So I did reach out to Emily. I just didn't get a response back, and I wasn't sure if I was missing her or if I needed a call, or if I was sending it to the wrong email. I sent it to the MakerMade support or something. It was the actual website email address, and I maybe sent it to the wrong email. I just hit contact when it says contact us.
So what did you send the email about, Lauren? Was it video content or was it request?
Well, we talked about it a few weeks ago. Last week I had a surgery, so
right,
been kind of out of the pocket. But it was let me go back to my email.
Sarah at Emily at MakerMade.com. Both of them, those would be the ones to send it to for sure.
Yeah. So I had the same thing about.
I sent it to info.
Okay.
MakerMade or something like that. Trying to find which one I sent.
Yeah, same thing.
The wrong one. I didn't see which email address it was. I'm afraid it just got lost.
Yeah.
Because as soon as we got done talking, the next day I reached out. I'm afraid I'm sending it to the wrong location.
Get disseminated, but yeah. So in case you were having the same issue.
Yeah, she's actually reached out. Emily, I believe it was Emily, has actually reached out to me twice. Hey, we'd love to take your video and we want to put a link to your YouTube channel on our, and I tell her, yeah, no problem. Let me know what you need. And then you just never hear back from her.
Okay.
So I'm not sure. I mean, I don't like to say anything bad about employees.
No. But this
got those employees that just either she's so busy she can't keep up, or whatever. Right.
Yeah, and I think there's a little bit of both worlds going on here. I have a touch base with her today, so we'll just talk about it. I won't bring that up specifically.
It's 1 o'clock.
That's where Patrick.
I'm happy to
You're a good CEO. I'm definitely more like Chris in a sense where there's a reason I don't have very many employees. I just fire them all. That where you're definitely it sounds like you're definitely the more the person that can running the teams.
It's been a trial by fire. I'll tell you that much.
Patrick's the owner, janitor, everything.
Running support calls, whatever.
Support calls, a little bit of everything.
Got to get it done, right? That looks good, Casey.
Yeah, here's that piece we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Extension. Ooh, Daddy. Oh yeah.
Nice fit.
That'll give me the distance I need. So anybody that see how much farther it sits down?
Yeah.
That's perfect. So anybody that's already bought the dust collection, you can still use the laser, put this in the router bracket, And then you would actually use the dust collection can work as fume extraction and air assist. So I'm going to check this out today. Woohoo!
Nice.
Damn, first print, first fit. Good. That never happened.
Right on. Well, guys, thank you so much, everybody, for hopping on again. I really appreciate it. I got to bounce. I've been using these first few calls where I've been hosting to just kind of get my bearings on what is valuable. I'm hoping that we can use it to keep driving collaboration between MakerMade and y'all, sharing ideas, sharing prototypes and beta releases on product and software, and then ultimately getting to a place like kind of where Casey's going, of you all being innovators for the company, that we absorb that innovation and provide royalties back. Like, again, I keep talking about these things. Like, I want to start really getting formal in how we partner and stuff like this. So again, thank y'all so much. And we'll catch you next week.
I appreciate it, Patrick. I'll be downloading 1.14, so I'll get back
Sweet.
in the game with the latest thing, and I should be able to give some feedback.
Right on. Thanks, Lauren. Appreciate it, man. Talk soon. I'll talk to
All
Emily
right,
about the value. Bye, guys.
Bye.